Taking a look at that leaderboard with Kevin Kisner reigning supreme for his 5th career PGA Tour victory. Kisner winning on the 2nd playoff hole, and what a playoff it was. 6-man playoff, tied for the largest playoff field in PGA Tour history. Has not been a playoff field that large since 2001. Also happened back in 1994. Adam Scott had a golden chance on the first playoff hole from inside 4 feet, but could not convert, leaving the door open for Kisner to make a birdie at the 2nd playoff hole on the 74th hole of the tournament, claiming this one at 33-1 this week. Kevin Kisner, your winner at Wyndham. For more, let's welcome in CBS Sports senior golf writer Kyle Porter. KP, I see no more fitting end to the regular season than what we just played witness to. A 6-man playoff preceded by leaderboard musical chairs for 4 hours. But when the music stopped, Kevin Kisner, the only one seated, he emerges from the caravan for his 5th career PGA Tour victory. Your initial reaction to another wild scene on tour is what?
Well, it was a wild scene. You know, last time we had a playoff this big, Joe, was Wyndham Championship was still playing and not a commentator on Golf Channel. I think my initial reaction is it's been a really good kind of run for Kevin Kisner. He's only got 3 top 20s on the PGA Tour this year, but all 3 of them have come in the last 6 weeks or so. So it's a great culmination for him. And then the other thing, Joe, I think my other takeaway based on how this played out on Sunday is it's just so difficult to win on the PGA Tour. Think about how thin those margins are. Russell Henley leads for the first 54 holes. He leads after each of the first 3 rounds. So the first 54 holes, he's kind of in control going to the back 9 on Sunday. He finishes T7. He doesn't even make the playoff because he misses a really short putt on, I think, the 12th hole, and then he misses about a 3.5-footer on the 18th hole. So just those margins, I don't know how these guys sleep at night. It's just got to mess with you mentally, and we saw that play out even a little bit in the playoff when Adam Scott misses a 4-footer on that first playoff hole, and Kevin Kisner goes on to beat him and everybody else in the playoff on the 2nd playoff hole.
Yeah, a lot of guys out there on tour right now have that ability to go out and chase, as we saw here on Sunday. Few have that closer DNA that we got so used to through the mid-2000s with Tiger and others who could really lock these things down with the lead. We'll have a bit more here on 54-hole leads in a moment, but I want to talk about the rising stock of Kevin Kisner. You talk about how well he's played over these last few months, and we're trying to put together a Ryder Cup team here, Kyle Porter. And when you look at Kevin Kisner, he's the type of guy that might be missing on this Team USA squad. A character guy, I don't know if we want to get boneheaded about it, but a glue guy that could really make a difference, loves some match play, and is now riding high off a win at Wyndham. We'll see what he does in the playoffs. But if you're the captain right now, you got to be taking a long look at Kiz.
Yeah, for sure. I'm always willing to get boneheaded about Ryder Cup stuff. I will make myself look like a fool, you know, with still 6 weeks to go. But I think Kisner's going to be a lightning rod over the next 3 or 4 weeks, because I think what's going to happen is, look, this win I was just looking at the Ryder Cup standings. It's going to take him to 17th, 16th, somewhere around there in the standings, not to that point where we see, you know, 12th, 13th, 14th, where it's easy to put those guys on the team. He's still going to be pretty far down, pending, like you said, what happens in the FedEx Cup playoffs. So I actually think what happens in those playoffs is going to be really big for him. If he continues this momentum, this really good play that he's kind of been on over the last 6 weeks, I think maybe he should be on the team. But again, he's only got 3 top 20s on the PGA Tour this year. That's a meaningful statistic. And if he falls off in the playoffs a little bit, I don't know that you can, you know, sort of rationalize your way into putting him on that team. So this is a start for him. It's not the finish line, but it is going to go a long way when it comes to choosing that team here in 3 or 4 weeks.
Still a month or so to get that situated, but we got to situate the here and now. Earlier this season, we had the longest playoff in 70+ years. Today, we get the most participants in a playoff all time, and hasn't occurred in the last 20 years. You have a knack for situating these things historically, these oddities, but all in 2 months' time, KP, what's in the water this year?
Well, not to mention the 7-way playoff we had at the Olympics for the bronze medal. I mean, I don't know. Like every time they go back to the beginning of the playoff, Joe, and you see like 27 guys on the tee box between caddies and people that are in the group and players, it's kind of jarring. It's astonishing, but it's been a lot of fun. You know, I think that you go into some of these tournaments and you think, okay, well, I've seen this movie before, and then you get Chesson Hadley, you know, making an ace on Sunday and crying over, you know, kind of getting himself into position to make the FedEx Cup playoffs, which he did. And you get 6 guys in a playoff that you didn't expect, and the one guy you did expect not in that playoff. So it just, I think for me, it really highlights just how dramatic and entertaining and unpredictable each and every week is on the PGA Tour.
Well, this really falls in line with recent results on tour. Now 13 consecutive come from behind winners. The last 54-hole lead or co-leader to convert was Phil at Kiowa at the PGA Championship, KP. I know you alluded to it earlier, but can you point to something specifically right now that's making it so hard to close on tour?
Well, and he might have been the most unexpected of all of those, right? I mean, for him to hold on against a Brooks Koepka and Louis Oosthuizen in those conditions was extraordinarily difficult. I don't know, Joe. I think you look at some of the, I guess we'll call them meltdowns or collapses that we've had down the stretch, and I think of the most recent two: Harris English in complete control last week in Memphis, Russell Henley in close to complete control this week in Greensboro. I think you know, the idea that you only win once every 3 or 4 or 5 years, and that being, you know, the tour being deeper than ever, and so you really only have the opportunity to win that, you know, that infrequently. I think that can mess with your head a little bit, and you start thinking, man, I might not have the opportunity to do this for another 4 or 5 years, and so I think that depth of field on the PGA Tour can really mess with some guys, because it just, you know, they know how infrequently they have opportunities to win on this tour.
And no doubt, I mean, we're dealing with seismic shifts in emotion here on Sunday. At one point, Justin Rose looked like he could win this thing. Then he fades, burns an edge at 18 that cost him a trip to the FedEx Cup playoffs. Just one instance of a change in next week's travel plans. As you take stock of that top 125 and that cut line, what really stood out to you here?
Well, it's got to be the Rose and Chesson Hadley thing. So Justin Rose outside that top 125, and you know, Ben Coley on Twitter pointed this out. That might preclude him from being on the Ryder Cup team. He's got, I think, some work to do to be a captain's pick on that Ryder Cup team. And Chesson Hadley sneaks in with a Sunday 62 that included his first ace ever, the first hole-in-one he's ever made in his life. He makes on a Sunday to get in the top 125, to keep his tour card, to make the playoffs. That's monumental, and it happens over the course of, you know, it happens over the course of 11 months, but it also happens over the course of an hour or two in that final event. And then the last thing, got to give a shout out to David Lingmerth. He started the week outside the top 200 on the PGA Tour. And what that means, Joe, is if he doesn't get inside the top 200, not only does he not go to the Korn Ferry Tour Finals for an opportunity to play for his PGA Tour card for next season, he has to go to Q School just to get his Korn Ferry card for next season. He Monday qualifies in this week, goes out, finishes inside the top 40. He finished 199th in the final FedEx Cup standings, which means that he gets to go to the Korn Ferry Tour Finals, which start next week. And if he finishes in the top 25 there, he earns his PGA Tour card back for the 2021-22 season. So just some big shifts in guys' careers and lives that took place this week at the Wyndham. Yeah,
Kevin Kisner, not the only one feeling good on the tail end of this week. The final chapter of the 2021 regular season now in the books, and with that, we turn our focus to some big-time playoff paydays and the $15 million grand prize at the end of it all. Top 3 heading to Liberty National include Colin Morikawa, Jordan Spieth, and Patrick Cantlay. Major swings are always just one win away, KP. Who you tailing this week at the Northern Trust, and who do you believe will ultimately claim the title and the riches of FedEx Cup champion this season?
Well, I don't know if this is going to be who ends up winning it, but I think Spieth is fascinating, Joe, and you and I have talked about him a ton, and obviously I'm the captain of the ship here, but I think you look at his record this year and you're like, oh, it's been a decent season. He's been good. He's only got one win, right? And yet he goes into this as the #2 guy, as somebody who really is kind of in control of his own destiny over the next 3 or 4 weeks. And you look at what he could do at that Tour Championship to kind of what would be, I think, a culmination of the last 2 or 3 years to win his second FedEx Cup and the 15 mil. And I think he's the guy. It feels kind of sneaky that he's second going into the FedEx Cup playoffs and again, all the money that's at stake there. So I think he's a really fascinating guy to follow. But I think if you're just looking for like the storyline, like who's been the guy this year, I think it's got to be Collin Morikawa. You look back over the last 5 or 10 years, and we've got these guys that kind of own seasons. Like Spieth owned 2015, Justin Thomas owned 2017. Brooks Koepka, I think 2018. You've got all these stories where it ultimately culminates in a FedEx Cup. It did for Spieth. It did for Justin Thomas, and that kind of feels like the path that we're on with Collin Morikawa. So I think he's probably the favorite to win it, and he should be. And we'll see if he kind of walks in the footsteps of those guys that have gone before him.
Week to week on tour, there are few sure things, but Kyle Porter, he's one of them. We thank you as always, my friend. And don't forget, there's more KP coming. Download and subscribe the First Cut podcast. Our guys take you under the ropes and into the action each and every week on tour, including what I promise will be a thrilling wrap-up of the Wyndham Championship. Download, subscribe, and enjoy the First Cut podcast. We'll have full highlights, that is, on the way next on CBS Sports HQ.
Want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis. No yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.